This is WITN News at 11.
Good evening and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lindsay Oliver. Dave Jordan is off. An Amber Alert is still in effect for a 7-month-old girl who was abducted at knife point by her father in Virginia. Police believe she is in extreme danger and they believe the man is heading to eastern North Carolina. Christian Heilman spoke to the baby's mother. Virginia State Police believe Kennedy is heading toward Oak Island, North Carolina. The two were last seen driving in a gold Suzuki sedan with fictitious North Carolina plates of EKZ 5093. Anyone who sees them or has any information, call 911 or star HP. A local fire department is grieving after their chief passed away Sunday night after he went into cardiac arrest following a training. Hyde County Emergency Services says Englehart Fire and Rescue Chief Tony Spencer III went into cardiac arrest a few hours following a class Thursday evening. Emergency officials say his wife performed CPR on him and they were able to get him flown to Centara Norfolk General Hospital, but he passed away last night. Tomorrow morning, the fire department will head to Norfolk to bring his body back to Swan Quarter. Funeral arrangements are still being made. Spencer had spent more than 40 years in public service. Police say a motorcyclist is dead after he took off as an officer stopped to see why he was blocking traffic. Captain Tim Guthrie with the Morehead City Police Department says the motorcyclist was blocking traffic on US 70 and Highway 24 around 10 this morning. Guthrie says as the officer approached to check on the situation, the rider took off at a high rate of speed. Less than a half a mile down the street in front of Lowe's, Guthrie says the motorcyclist went through a red light and struck the back of a large pickup truck. That motorcyclist, Roger Foster III of Newport, was pronounced dead at the scene. Guthrie says there were no active warrants against the 29-year-old man, but they learned he did not have a valid driver's license and his motorcycle had fake tags. Police are at a loss as to why Foster took off, as those offenses are both just citations. A Fort Bragg soldier was shot by a state trooper after the Highway Patrol says the motorcyclist tried to run him down. It happened around 2:15 Saturday afternoon in Terrell County as Trooper B.P. Daniel was trying to stop a speeding motorcyclist on US 64. The Highway Patrol says Private First Class Braden Bago turned down a dead-end road. The trooper then tried to conduct a high-risk vehicle stop after getting out of his patrol car. A news release says after telling Bago several times to stop, the motorcyclist started driving toward the trooper. At the same time, the Highway Patrol says Trooper Daniel, a 16-year veteran, fired at Bago before being struck by the motorcycle. Bago was shot and was taken to Vidant Medical Center for non-life-threatening injuries. The trooper was taken to Vidant Beaufort Hospital in Washington with minor injuries and was later released. The 19-year-old soldier is facing several charges, including assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill. The SBI is investigating the shooting. A murder spree that claimed the lives of 6 victims in Arizona may have come to an end this morning when the suspected gunman turned a gun on himself. Dan Cheneman has been following this story and says police believe all 6 victims may be connected. Decades ago, Sylvia White was found guilty of murdering her 4-year-old stepson and hiring a hitman to kill her husband. Now her stepfamily will once again try to convince parole commissioners to keep her behind bars. Little Billy White died in 1973, but it wasn't until his father, Billy White, was killed in Jones County in 1992 that investigators realized both had been murdered. The family of the 2 victims are preparing to present photos and articles to state officials, hoping to convince them to deny White's parole. Teresa White Murray says this is not the first time her family has made a trip to Raleigh. Wright was first eligible for parole back in 2005, and the family has been fighting it ever since. For those interested in learning more about these murders, an hour-long television program about the investigation into Billy White and his son's death is set to air on Investigation Discovery July 1st. A Greenville man has been sentenced to 12.5 years in prison for drug trafficking charges. 33-year-old Jacoby Williams of Greenville learned his fate today in federal court. He has been charged with 4 counts of distribution of crack cocaine. In 2015, investigators with the Greenville Police Department and agents with the Federal Bureau of Investigation began investigating Williams for selling narcotics. A confidential informant bought crack cocaine from Williams 4 times. In addition to the controlled purchases, Williams was also arrested with crack in his possession. Switching over to weather now, a beautiful day here in Eastern Carolina has turned into a nice and cool night. Perfect for maybe turning the AC off and leaving the windows open, Matt.
Yeah, it's
Great news. All right, thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
After more than 6 months of debate and discussion, one local city council postponed a vote today that would decide the fate of a multi-million-dollar facility in their community, citing a need for more input from the public. Edward Chi joins us now live with what this could mean for the deal. Edward. All right, Edward, thank you. Now, at tonight's meeting, a presentation on the proposed city budget for Kinston was also unveiled to the public, which included no tax increases for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Now, that will also be voted on during the June 18th City Council meeting. And staying in Kinston, 2 years of construction work on a busy roadway is finally coming to an end. The Kinston Department of Public Services has completed water and sewer line improvements along Queen Street in the heart of the downtown area. Public Services Director Rhonda Barwick says the city still has to inspect some of the contractor's work, but that major construction has ended. The $7 million project began back in the spring of 2016. Barwick says the aging infrastructure under the street made the work more challenging. The state DOT may install some drainage improvements at the intersection of King and Queen Streets in preparation for Queen Street to be resurfaced in the future, but she says lane closures should be minimal. Well, still ahead in sports, the Duke Blue Devils have done it again as they come back to win over Georgia today. Alex Walker will have the highlights. Plus, the man that transformed Starbucks into the global chain it is today is stepping down. Details just ahead. You know what you mentioned that I didn't want to hear?
What's that?
Mosquitoes.
That's right. Yeah, and I've seen walking through the neighborhood a lot of standing water.
Yeah.
And that's going to take some time. Even though the atmosphere is rather dry, the standing water, of course, is going to be just a breeding ground for some mosquitoes. Also coming up this weekend.
Good warning to heed. Make sure you got your
Yes.
bug spray before you take your dog on the walk, for instance, or play with the kids out a little bit later at night or something like that.
A little DEET can go a long way.
Absolutely. There you go, Matt. Words to live by. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And staying in state, talk about Duke. What a comeback.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, they were down 8-1 against Campbell, scored 15 unanswered runs. They've come back all week long, and they beat Georgia out of the SEC.
Unbelievable.
Incredible stuff.
All right, thanks, Alex. Well, another beautiful sunny day is in store for us. Tomorrow's temperatures stay in the mid-80s and humidity is low. Matt will have a final look at your forecast coming up.